Well, I guess it's time to start making videos inside. Well, howdy there, y'all. Yamasaki here. Welcome back to the channel, and today is a special video because today this video is going to be starting off a new series on my YouTube channel. You guys probably already guessed it, judging by the title. It's going to be learning how to fly RC. Now, hopefully you guys know that this channel is pretty much dedicated to the category of RC flying. But I also have, like for example, I also enjoy the other aspects of RC. Like I have a boat here, I've got 2 trucks, so I enjoy all aspects of RC. But there's none more challenging than learning to fly. You can fly a boat and you can drive a truck. You can remotely control those as easy as typing on a keyboard nowadays. But RC flying is still just as hard as it was 30 some years ago. It's a lot easier now, but 30 some years ago it was a lot harder. Because we don't have all the they didn't have all the technology that we have today integrated into planes and stuff. But all that aside, this video is just going to be me talking to you guys about, well, let me just start off. Like, before even thinking about getting into this hobby, you guys need to figure out what aspect of the hobby you're going to get into. There's 2 different parts. There's RC helicopters and there's RC airplanes. And both are extremely different, especially nowadays. RC airplanes, you need a lot more space to fly them, but you also need a lot less practice to fly them. But it also depends on what style of airplane. And you see, I can't get through everything in this entire video. That's why this is going to be a series, because there's a whole bunch of stuff. There's a whole bunch of aspects into this hobby. And so, like I said, guys, the first thing you got to do is you got to do your research. Go online, look at some RC airplane photos, maybe some videos. Go on some of the hobby sites and see what's available. And maybe if you have a local Radio Shack, you can go and check out what they have. I have a local Radio Shack here. I actually bought one of my planes as well as that boat and one of my RC trucks from that place. They more or less specialize in like Traxxas and like surface radio control, but they do have a small amount of like RC airplanes and some RC helicopters. That's what you also need to decide too, is do you want to get into RC helicopters, do you want to get into RC airplanes, or do you want to get into the aspect of both? Me, I'm kinda just barely more or less leaning towards the side of airplanes just because I have so many. But I also do have a T-Rex, an old T-Rex 450 SE. I haven't flown in a while because my gyro's acting up. For some reason my gyro has been acting up lately, so I haven't gotten to flown it in a while. And in fact, I haven't flown in a couple months. Just a week ago or 2, I actually flew my little foam biplane. And I'll admit, I'm a little bit rusty, but I still have the capability of doing some 3D stuff, you know, like hovering. But that plane's pretty much easy to hover. It's just a little foam airplane. It's an electric one. That's another thing you need to take into account. Do you want to do strictly electric, or do you want to do nitro? Nitro used to be really, really popular in this hobby. It's not as much anymore. You either get foam electrics or you get big giant scale RC airplanes. There are still a small tiny niche in the hobby where nitro is still available, but because nobody wants to build RC airplanes anymore, there's barely any kits out there to build them. There's always ARFs or ready to flies or binding flies, but those aren't as challenging as building an actual airplane yourself. I actually had to build, if you guys go and check out this video, by the way, I actually built a Great Plains Pete and Poke Sport 40 while I was down in Wyoming, still in high school. And it took me a couple months to get it done. It was already pretty much halfway finished. The fuselage was done. The wing was done. I just had to figure out how to connect the wing. I had to cover it, put an engine on it, put the servos in it. So I still had a lot to do to get that airplane done. I only have 2 things left. I got to figure out the CG on it, and I got to get aileron servo rods for it. Other than that, it's ready to fly. I've already done a test run of the engine on it, and it does perfect. At half throttle, it wants to just shoot up in the air like a bat out of hell. What else can I say? You also need to be prepared to have a lot of stuff. Like, it's not a small hobby. It's also not the cheapest either. Like, you're going to be having multiple transmitters if you have like hundreds of planes. I mean, this one can hold like a maximum of, I think, 10? Nowadays you can get a transmitter like this. This is a Tactic TTX 650. I just got it from one of my flying friends. He actually gave this to me. It's one of the easier transmitters to learn. I still don't know how to program it yet, but I can pretty much sub-trim. I can do travel adjustment. I can switch the servos around if I need to. It's a really basic transmitter. This is one of the main things you're going to need, but that's for a whole nother video, is what you're all going to need. But you're going to need a transmitter, you're going to need parts, you're going to have a whole bunch of nitro engines at some point in the hobby, like this little Super Tiger 40. Whole bunch of engines, transmitters, wires, parts, screws, props, you name it. You're going to have a lot of everything that you're going to need to get into this hobby. So you need to figure out what category you're going to do, RC helicopters or RC airplanes. You're also going to need to just go ahead and do your research, look up videos, look at different airplanes, see what you want to fly. There's also 2 different kinds of flying. There's sport flying. Well, there's not really 2 different kinds. There's a multitude of different kinds of flying out there. But the most common ones are just like docile, you know. Different kinds of planes do different kinds of things. I have a couple 3D planes. I have a couple trainers. When you're starting off, you're going to need a trainer airplane, preferably foam and electric. They're just easier to repair and stuff. They're just not as fun as nitro, though. I'll let you guys know that now. You're going to need to start off with like a high wing trainer that's electric and made of foam. Once you get up to intermediate, you could probably go into a sport plane, which has a little bit more maneuverability. You can maybe do some flips and rolls and stuff, but you can't prop hang, in other words, hover. You can't do knife edges. You can't really do flat spins. You can't do all these crazy maneuvers that these guys are doing. Once you are good at sport flying, you can probably move into 3D flying. That's what a lot of people are doing nowadays, especially with big giant scale airplanes, if it's set up for 3D. They're symmetrical airfoils, which I'll get into in another video. It's the shape of the wing. Really confusing. I still don't even know how to figure that out. They got a mid-wing symmetrical airfoil. They've got a lot of power. They're really lightweight. They have huge control surfaces with huge travels on them. You can do prop hangs, you can do loops and rolls and touch and goes and all this crazy crap, guys. Like, I can't even get into what I'm saying right now in this video because there's just so much going on in this hobby. You also need to know one thing. You're going to crash. It's just inevitable. The first time I tried to fly a helicopter, and I actually got into this hobby by flying helicopters. And I started off with a little E-Flight Blade CX coaxial helicopter. Once I got good at hovering that, I moved on to my T-Rex 450 SE. More or less my dad's, but we have the same exact aircraft, same exact helicopter. And I crashed that a multitude of times. I bent some main shaft. I definitely broke some blades. I definitely had to repair some things. You're just going to have to learn that you're going to crash and you're not going to know when. It's just a matter of time. Every airplane's going to go down eventually, and it's your job to either throw it away or fix it. It's just the way it happens, because a servo could break, the engine could toast itself. You could run out of fuel and have to do a dead stick. Your wings could fold in half. Glue joints could fall apart. It's just, whatever happens to that airplane, it happens. You have no control over it unless you meticulously maintain your airplanes and replace parts really often and have a lot of money to do that. But if you don't, more than likely you're going to crash. It's just a matter of time. I remember when I built one of my airplanes, it's sitting right over there. I'm looking at it right now. The first time I built it and I tried to take it out, I bumped it and I chipped the prop, and luckily nothing was really broken except the motor mount. I had to custom build a new motor mount for it. And then the second time I took it off, I completely broke the prop in half. So I have a new one on order. I want to try and get that one running. But as you guys probably saw in the little clip before this video started, it's snowing. So that's why I'm pretty much doing this video, these video series. I don't have much to do, and it's about time for me to get back into making some videos. And I really just want to help you guys get into this hobby. It's just an amazing hobby. You meet a lot of great people, and it's just really, really fun. So the things we went over today, oh, and I forgot one more thing. Before you even buy anything, you need to get this. Hang on, I gotta go get it first, so stay tuned. Alright, so, if you've decided that you are going to invest in this hobby, and before you even buy your first piece of kit, you need to get a simulator. This is the greatest training tool on earth to learn to fly, without a doubt. And yes, nowadays airplanes are equipped with AS3X and assists and GPSs and gyros and all this other stuff that hasn't been around since recent years. But I guarantee you, this will help you learn to fly. And this is actually how I learned to fly, guys. This was the very first thing I touched before I even touched the first helicopter I flew. And like I said earlier in this video, guys, I learned to fly the hard way with helicopters. And they're by far the hardest things to learn to fly, because they don't fly in a straight direction. They fly all over the place, and you got to keep that thing level. And it's pretty hard. Even though this particular one, the Great Plains Real Flight RC Flight Simulator G4, which was released in 2007 or 2008, I can't remember, it still holds up. It's just fine. It taught me how to fly and everything. I do now have a very later version, which is Real Flight 7.5, and it has a whole bunch of other aerobatic airplanes and a whole bunch of other airplanes than this. Even though I still have the original airplanes that came with this, I have a whole bunch of selections. I have a whole bunch of flying sites and everything. It even comes with its own transmitter that you connect into your computer via USB, and it acts just like a real transmitter. And nowadays you can actually even connect your very own transmitter that you use to fly your actual planes to your computer, and you can learn to fly with the flight simulator and your real transmitter. That's actually a pretty cool feature. But you guys, invest in a quality simulator. It's going to help you a lot. It's going to teach you muscle memory. It's going to teach you about orientation of the aircraft. It even gives you a little bit of editing too. You can upscale the aircraft and it flies completely differently. I actually learned that when I was first starting out. You just go to edit aircraft and you type in what size of the airplane you want, and it upscales it or downscales it, and it actually is very real because the physics change too. If it's bigger, it'll fly more gentle and docile, and if it's smaller, it's a lot more squirrelier. And that's another thing you guys need to keep in mind. The bigger the aircraft, the better they fly. The smaller the aircraft, the squirrelier it's going to be in the air. But the upside to that is, the bigger the aircraft, the harder it's going to crash. But the smaller the aircraft, it's going to have a lot less damage than a big, giant scale balsa gas-powered airplane. That's the truth. So, in this video we've discussed, do your research, look at airplanes, look at videos, look at all the equipment you're going to need, decide what style of flying you want to do. Do you want to do 3D? Do you want to do sport? Do you want to do gentle flying? Because like I said, guys, every airplane flies differently. Do you want to do airplanes, helicopters, or do you want to do both? And then, last but not least, invest in a quality simulator. So pretty much that's all I have to say for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment for more content. And Yamasaki out. See y'all later. Hope you stay tuned for the next video.